It's been great teamwork all around.
Okay, so let's.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
It's been great teamwork all around.
Okay, so and like you said, Gary, it's so cool to have the mix.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
It's been
Is
great teamwork all around.
Oh,
Getting some
little-
Is
feedback.
that a reverb? Are we having a reverb?
we're
Yeah,
having
that's,
some
yeah.
lag.
I started the YouTube live and it came in 20 seconds afterwards, and I just turned it off.
But as like Gary, you with Gideon's poem, if y'all haven't seen it, it's just spectacular. But like being able to provide mixed media space for our creative folks to engage with, I think
Yep.
it would be easier for people to come up and do open mic, but it also creates a bigger space for more types of creativity. So
Has everybody seen Rachel's piece?
Not yet, but I'm
Not
looking
fully.
forward to it.
Because that's what she does. She and her husband do filming, and hers is really interesting. But she ends with that favorite poem of mine that you read last week, Love and Dread.
The one from the New Yorker.
oh great.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
And Michael's is amazing.
Cool.
Well, we got a lot to look forward to here.
Yeah, I'm excited about all of it. But I love the virtual mic. The virtual mic thing was a very, very, very good thing.
Yeah. Hey, I've posted a page of all the poets' information. I spent most of the day working on that, and
Good.
it's really cool. It's a really cool page. So do check that out. It's I think I've got it in 2 of the 3 places where it needs to be, and probably have to add a third link, but you can find it easily. It's on the main page. Okay, let's see, 257, 357. Just got the 2 people in the waiting room right now.
Okay.
There's a third, but it's Jay Bryan. We'll let him in.
Let Jay in.
Let Jay in. Hello, Jay. We let you in.
Okay. I just put the community poem on the Facebook page, and it is up on our website under if you hover over community poem, then you can click on it. Hopefully, yes, and then Home Song comes up. Yeah.
So a quick question, Ralph. So the process for introducing the poets is that we just unmute ourselves and we introduce the poets and we mute ourselves back and you switch over to the video, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
We do that at the end of the video, the last, the prior poet. Is that right, Ralph? Just go automatically?
Yeah. And Abigail is going to put you on spotlight so that,
Okay.
you know, as soon as I stop sharing the prior poet, then people will see your face.
Okay.
Good.
Jay, by the way, I think you've got some dirt on your camera lens. I think that there's a
Yeah,
little-
I noticed that last night. I don't know
Yeah.
what to do about that.
Well, wherever your camera is, I don't know. Can you see exactly where the camera is? It should be like in the middle of your.
Should be a little glowing dot.
screen.
Yeah,
Some have and some don't. If you had like, you know, a tissue or a glasses lens wipe or
Okay.
something, if you wiped it off around there.
Here, let me hand you one, Jay.
what's that? What's that?
Here, let me hand you a tissue.
Thanks.
So it's 3:59. We've got 5 people in the waiting room.
Oh
Okay.
boy, let's go. Fantastic.
We are live on YouTube, so we're anybody streaming on YouTube can watch us do backstage talk right now.
Well, let's go ahead and admit these folks.
Beautiful. Okay.
Oh, good.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Good to see everyone.
we'll start in just a couple minutes.
Thank you for coming. Be sure to share on Facebook and tell your friends about this.
We have the son-in-law from one of our poets,
Who's that?
Simon
Hi,
Spire.
Gary. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
So glad you're here, Simon.
And the daughter of one of our poets is on the same computer.
All right. I think if you guys are ready, we should go ahead and start right on time.
You want to go ahead and start? Okay. Well, I want to welcome you to the festival. I'm the technical coordinator for the festival. My name's Ralph Earl, and before we get started, I just want to say a few things about how the meeting's going to go today. We are going to record the meeting, so if you are not comfortable with recording, you can to keep your camera off, keep your sound off, or whatever, or leave the meeting. We are starting with the mics muted and the cameras off, and you can turn the cameras on. That would be lovely if we can see your faces, but please do keep yourselves muted. This is not a highly interactive call today. This is really simply a reading. The way it's going to work is that the poets will be introduced live, and then you will be able to watch them. They will be showing video of them. That way, each poet gave a really polished performance on their video. But there will be transitions between the live portions and the video portions, and the transitions will be pretty smooth, but not 100% smooth. So don't be too concerned. We'll make the transitions as smooth as we can. Even though we don't want you to use your microphones during the call, please use the chat for communication, for appreciation, for comments. Most of you are familiar with how Zoom chat works, but if you're not, it's this little button down at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom toolbar. You may have to run your cursor, your mouse cursor, to the bottom of the screen to see that toolbar. Click on the chat button to open it. If it annoys you, if you don't want to see it, click on that button again to close it. And type your message right at the way bottom of the chat window. You have to actually click where it says type your message here to type your message. You'll see that it says the message goes to everybody, but you can also communicate with any of the hosts. During this particular meeting, you can't communicate with other people who are in the meeting, just send a public chat to everybody. But please do show your appreciation to the poets, comment on their poems. They really like to get that feedback too. I will be recording, as I said, and the recording will be available probably about half an hour after the call on our website in case you want to see it again. There will also be a YouTube playlist of the 6 poets that you're going to hear this afternoon. So that'll be available anytime you want to see it. One last thing, if you have technical difficulties during the call, something with your system, something that you don't understand, ask me about it in the chat, publicly or privately, it doesn't matter. I'm Ralph Earl. And you can also text me on my phone, and that's 919-605-0637 if you need to get a hold of me that way. I'll put that information in the chat, and with that, I'll turn it over to Abigail Browning of the Carrboro Poets Council.
Hi, everyone. We are so glad you're here. It is a wonderful day out in the Carrboro, Chapel Hill area, and I'm Abigail Browning. I'm part of the Carrboro Poets Council, and I'm one of the younger, meaning less time on the council people than the other folks here, but it's been going on for a long time, and it's one of the only free 15 years. Is that right, Mara, Gary? And it's one of the free poetry festivals in small towns across America. So we're glad that you're here. And we hope you've gotten to do some of the other things that we've had going on this weekend. We've had a virtual open mic, which has been wonderful. Folks from all over the country can submit videos of themselves reading their poem for the festival, and we put that in a playlist. We also have a community poem that just went live today, was edited by Ellie Bookman, where several people, some in the audience here I've seen, contributed a line and now are published on our website. So we are so glad that we have so many people involved in this festival, and tonight is kind of our finale. We have 6 poets, and different Carrboro Poets Council members are going to be introducing each of them. So really, I'm just here to introduce the whole festival, welcome you in, hope that you come this year and all the years to follow, that you invite your friends, check out our Facebook and our website, and that you just enjoy. I also wanted to say thank you to our sponsors, which I've put in the chat, which is the Carrboro Tourism Development Authority, and also the Recreation Parks and Cultural Resources Department in town of Carrboro. Charles Harrington in particular. Also love to thank Ralph, who is our technical genius, and Paul Jones, who was very instrumental in the open mic this year. And then I would love to turn it over to, before I do that, again, the other thing we had was CJ Suit's amazing workshop, which some of you got to come in for. There's another community poem on our website that you can check out that we wrote during that workshop together. But as we go into the main event, the featured reading here, I would like to turn the mic over to Carrboro Poets Council member and dear friend, Susan Spalt.
Thank you, Abigail. And what a workshop it was last night. CJ, I hope you hear this because it was truly fantastic and we thank you. CJ does it all. He is a community organizer, an arts educator. He has performed in plays at national and local music festivals, and he has brought poetry to those most in need of a voice, youth, inmates, and students. Most of all, he's a performance poet who truly uses his poetic voice for change. He has made performance poetry an important part of our community, and we all celebrate his recent appointment as Poet Laureate of Chapel Hill. Please check out his impressive bio on our website. And one thing about CJ, once you have heard him perform his poetry, you will never forget him. I am honored to introduce you to CJ. Thanks to all of you for your participation, and thanks to CJ for all he has done for our community. Enjoy.
Hello, y'all, wherever you're at. My name is CJ Suit. I'm the first Poet Laureate of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Such a pleasure to be back here at West End Poetry Festival. I'm going to share a few pieces with you here. The first is from an at-home residency I did called Trust Your Struggle. It's called The Sphinx. There are 3 parts to it now. It's made up of questions, so every line in the poem is a question. Sphinx 2. Mr. Poet Laureate, I see you doing big things. Don't you love being an artist? So much easier than having a regular job. I like your poetry. Will you write me a poem about how beautiful I am? I like your poetry. Will you do a poem for me now for free on this date, at this bar, in this parking lot, at my fundraiser, at my friend's birthday, at my birthday, share at my house? I don't have much. Are you down to make it work? I'm sorry we didn't have more. We spent a lot on our keynote. You should have asked for more. Will you come talk to my class for free? That was so good. You could rap. Do you rap? What do you mean is different and the same? I love poetry and art in general. I was a poet once. God, artists have it so good. I wish I could just create for a living, like make my own schedule. You get to do that, right? Not always. What do you mean it's hard? Challenging. How can it be hard to write poems? Right? 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 Right wrongs with songs? That's a good line. You should put that in your next poem. Have you been on Button Poetry, Verses and Flow? Do you know Andrea Gibson? Do you know Buddy Wakefield? Do you know Portia O? Do you know Saul Williams? Do you know Danez Smith? You do? Do you know? Have you heard of? Have you heard of this program? Do you know about that fellowship? You'd be perfect for it. You should apply. You should apply. You should apply. You should apply yourself. What do you mean you're tired? How do you make it all work? How do you find balance? How do you find shape without the container of a cubicle? Poetry is the container. Expansive, emergent, but like how though? That sounds hard. I don't know if I could do that. If I could, I would though. I want to write like you one day, be like you one day, brave like you one day. My story is powerful. If I don't tell my story, someone else will. Okay, but for real though, how much you make off poetry? What do you mean it fluctuates? Still sounds cool. Have you ever been published, like not self-published? Can we publish your poem for free? Why are you so quiet, poet? Use your words. Speak, poet. Rap got your tongue. I bet you're always thinking of poems in that magical mind. Is this a bad time for a rhyme? I bet you get this all the... The next poem is also from that residency. It's called Surface Tension. Bridges cannot choose sides, must be grounded in at least two places, be wrought with the tension of being a firm foundation to suspend the movement and exchange of words and worlds. I remember awakening to animation suspended, hanging in between identities, arms stretched between Oakland and San Francisco, Brooklyn and Manhattan, Franklin County and Orange County, a poor boy from a wealthy college town, between white theater kids at school and black family and friends at home, between football teammates and a fear of contact, a church boy into science, asking questions like, who was King James? And if there is no God, how come my brain cells look like the universe, the iris, a nebula? I was so confused for so long, hands cramping from holding story, so tired of stretching to fill in blanks left intentionally by elders, peers, co-workers, like being on the outside, an inside joke. Then I realized that everyone is finding balance, moving through a world of contradictions, trying to make sense of senseless violence, a loud silence. It can be so easy to be in the space of one or the other, here or there, right or wrong. I push into the gray, a world beyond binary, knowing that I am multitudinal, a spirit having a human experience, so I hold. Suspend interpersonal beliefs, find grounding in all the places my heart lands, so that I may be a firm pathway into an experience that you have never known. One more, because the residency was just so fruitful. Dysphoria. This body is weapon when it does not mean to be. Demands space it does not ask for. An heirloom cursed and blessed, a vessel brimming with possibility and expectation. I remember not having this feeling of otherness, constant astral projection, being here and not. I know this place too well. Still trying to figure out how to uncage the maze that is existence here in the now. Current prescription, whether to take this or not. How to live fullness in a world so small. This body repels, falls victim to the gravity of perception. The body is not a weapon, though it can be formed into one. Sharpened, forged, wielded, clenched like a fist or a sphincter. I be more sphinx, all questions. Being in this body, the space gets small, like very small, like a box in a cave that everyone can see from the outside enough to decide they know what it means. This skin speaks a lot. Before I do, like when I walk in the store, it says, "Hi everyone, I'm headed to the shoe section or the chip section or the beer section." This body speaks a lot. Like when I walk into a bar and it says, "I just want to fuck or flirt or ghost or gaslight you, play consent, pretend woke," I remember this and remember myself learning love into now and present, how I might survive the encounter, the challenge of this life, to stay black and live a full life. The staying is so much harder than the being. I'm asked to deny myself 3 times or more every day, to say that I am not what I know myself to be. The next poem, I'm a performance poet and a performance artist, and so performance is really important to me, and sharing poetry with some feeling. You know, I'm born and raised in the Southern Pentecostal Church, and so I feel like I went to church every Sunday, seeing preachers take a 2,000-year-old story, wrap it up in a metaphor, and give it back to people in a way that they could apply it to their daily lives. So that's just a little anecdote about where it comes from for me. But I'll share this next poem. That's just in me. It's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling. You're growing inside, and when you wake up, ready to say, "I think I'll make a snappy new day." Such a good feeling, a very good feeling. The feeling you know that I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more poems for you. And you'll have things you want to talk about, and I will too. Life knows me too well. From the minute I burst from her shell, I just yelled my first memory. Consists of a last kiss and a death wish. A fading photograph and a cracked concrete epitaph that reads, "When my outer is ugly, it's my heart that laughs last, patiently waiting with pen and grasp. I clutch the last bits of liquid sanity, ink, and pen a permanent self-fulfilling prophecy like laugh now, cry later," but I really wrote in reverse, cry now, laugh later, because when I am old, my feeble soul may need the medicine of laughter. When it's mind over matter of fact that I am more than just a bad joke put on a 1986 record, and my pen glides like a bald eagle with Parkinson's, it gets a little difficult to write in the silver lining in my art. There's a kite string of a dream crash landing face down in a stream of consciousness, rescued by a pen and pad, revived by a poet, the poems, my patient, imagine diving headfirst into an ocean of oration, a synapse sea full of gray matter in my first memory. I am a poet, full of all the issues and baggage in the world, like a shopping mall, a suitcase tongue, air my laundry under the spotlight so I can dress clean in the audience, pack light to keep my skeletons clothed, to make sure metaphors and similes fit over heads, not go over heads. Each morning I wake up sober or dead every day. Every day is a rebirth. We must die in order to appreciate living fall. In order to develop the balance to stand, my hands are cracked with carpal tunnels, road mapping the universe. This is the truest verse I ever wrote. Me taking notice of my notes, written in the margins of high school papers, playing as a soundtrack to college lectures. This world has taught me I would be forever lost if off the college course. Diallo telling me that upon giving in, they will one day dance on my conformist corpse. So I dance to the soundtrack, bound back in decibels of defiance, resounding loud as rolling seas are 6:23 on a Tuesday morning, born black skin so heavy with history. Mama says my cry sounded more like a freedom song, a black power poem sprinkled with innocence. Said a month before I was kicking prenatal nursery rhymes in the workshop of her womb. Water broke like Hurricane County Creek water baptism on an uncomfortable swimmer. I said water broke like Hurricane County Creek water baptism on an uncomfortable swimmer. When she held me for the first time, my back cracked like the spine of a book. She carried me for 9 months before she was able to C-section. She never knew she bleeds so much from a paper cut every day. Every day is a rebirth. This poem has chosen me. These poems are choosing me. They are strumming my vocal cords in Santana sonnets, a black magic mantra, soundtrack to my life. The quarters of the classroom too cacophonous for the rhythm of soul to paper cadence. So I pumped up the volume on my voice that marched military meter against the mainstream good intent artillery fought stigma with stanza. My first memory consists of a last kiss to the ivory tower, and a death wish in the hopes of being reborn with a true appreciation for this gift in spite of the rumors of a fading photograph future. And I am standing at the cracked concrete tombstone of a money marketing scheme that teaches me to think outside in. But a pen taught me what it really means to be free. I chose my weapon as wisely as she chose me. Poems. That one's. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit for a moment, just here at the end, before I get out the way and let some other amazing poets do their thing for y'all. Just about the importance of like shift and being able to be with shifts and transition. I'm a person in my life for whom my astrology, if you believe in that, you get down with that. My astrology means that I'm always going to be in a state of change and shifting. And so it is a thing that I've gotten used to, definitely with some help from my elders. My mama was good at supporting me in entering the unknown and really just trusting that things are going to be all right and things are going to work out. I grew up outside the rural buffer in Chapel Hill. Later went on to do work and still consider Oakland, California, in the Bay Area a second home. But growing up in Orange County, we didn't have much. We didn't have a whole lot. Not running water for many years, taking a bath in the tub in my living room when we were really young. Bologna sandwiches, Vienna sausages, like just making it. And I think in that time I learned to trust. I mean, as you are with a kid, you're in a space where you just kind of have to trust that folks are going to take care of you. But particularly what I learned in that time, when things got hard, when things got difficult, when things shifted very fast, I learned to be with that process. And then I grew up to meet a mentor of mine who says to me very clearly all the time, he's like, all we have is the process. And we have to go through it to get to it. And so it's very, very important to me to embrace change and shifts and be willing to question and be with the questions that arise as I live this life on this planet. And in order to really just like make the most of it, and really be open to new opportunities and new spaces, new places, just super important to me to be able to be adaptive and emergent and show up in a space and have one plan and then be like, oh no, that's not what this space needs. It needs something different, and be able to meet and show up for that desire or that need in this space. I think particularly working with young people got a plan of their own most of the time. And it's just like very important as an adult now who works with young people to just always be willing to change up and be willing to like embrace that as a part of the process, and whatever needs to happen will happen, and have a tremendous trust for whatever needs to occur in a space it will, and not have to have a tensile nature, and really be able to stretch. And a big piece, in one of the pieces that I read a little earlier, was speaking about bridges, and a core tenet of my work is that bridges cannot choose sides. That does not mean we don't need to be grounded in who we are and where we come from and where we're going. But if I am so busy trying to be on one side of an issue or a space, so rigid that I cannot like reach across and hear someone else or someone else's perspective, then I cease to be a bridge. I cease to be a place where people can develop and see a new point of view or gather a new understanding. And so it's really important to me. This, like, the idea of changing and shifting really spirals way out for me as a poet, as an artist. So I could say a lot more on it, but I'm gonna wrap it up right there. So yes, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for taking a few moments just to like hear what little old me's got to say. Thank y'all. Hope you're having a great West End Poetry Festival. Enjoy all the other poems, all the other art. Yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon. Hopefully sooner than it feels, I'll see you in person or on some other Zoom thing. Much love, peace from me to you.
Thank you. That was amazing. Embrace the change. That's what I got from you. Be with the questions that arise. I think that we're all of us carrying phrases from what you've just read. Thank you. I'm here with the great pleasure of introducing our next poet, John Murillo. It was Cabra's Poet Laureate, Fred Joyner, who first introduced us to him and said that he would read his poems at the West End Poetry Festival 2020. And we're so glad that John was able to join us all here and now, and also thanks to YouTube and recordings, he'll be here for everybody into the future as well. John is on record as saying that for a poet, talking about publications and awards is decidedly secondary. Though in that interview, he used a rather saltier term than secondary. So I'm going to skip over those details and let you look them up on the internet and also on our website, where we have bios of our featured poets. The real work of the poet, said John, is simply to write, to publish well-written poems grounded in the real world, in a language real people can understand. He also says that he believes that literature has the potential to make us more human. Poetry, drama, literary fiction, creative nonfiction, when done right, can show us exactly who we are and who we still might become, for better or for worse. He doesn't just say this, he's not just talking, he's walking that walk. You'll know it when you hear him reading, or if you find his poems in print, either online, on his website, or in his two collections. Those are Up Jump the Boogie and Contemporary American Poetry. This is what other people are saying of his work. The poet Yusuf Komunyakaa wrote, "The pages of Up Jump the Boogie breathe and sing. In these honest poems, no one gets off the hook." And then the poet and critic Rigoberto Gonzalez wrote, "John Murillo speaks hard truths about the violence that afflicts our communities, our bodies, our stories. Yet over this troubling arena shaped by hostile social and political climates, a saving grace arises. Murillo's unfettered ability to get at the heart of the wound, giving us words that empower us to transcend the pain." I love those words, no one gets off the hook. If you read, for example, his poem Mercy, Mercy Me, which he wrote after revisiting the area of Los Angeles that he lived in as a child, it ends with these terrible reverberating images. I quote, "The world on fire and half your head with it." Of that poem, he commented, "Writing the poem was my way of processing memory, grief, and the loss of an already tenuous sense of home." You could read too a poem called "Upon Reading that Eric Dolphy Transcribed Even the Calls of Certain Species of Birds." Imagine starting in that place. This is in his book, Contemporary American Poetry. But read it for the way it takes these breathtaking leaps and somersaults and falls off that initial provocation. So John Murillo from Cabra, from the West End Poetry Festival 2020. Welcome and thank you.
All right. Hey, thank you for tuning in, for listening to some poems. I want to thank the festival organizers for bringing me out. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be sharing some work with you all, and I hope you dig what you hear. I'm going to read about 3 poems or so from my latest collection, Contemporary American Poetry, out this year from Four Way Books. And yeah, so I'll start with the first poem in the book called On Confessionalism. Not sleepwalking, but waking still, with my hand on a gun, and the gun in a mouth, and the mouth on the face of a man on his knees. Autumn of '89, and I'm standing in a Section 8 apartment parking lot, pistol cot, and staring down at this man, then up into the mug of an old woman staring, watering the single sad flower to the left of her stoop, the flower also staring. My engine idling behind me, a slow moaning bass line, and the bark of a dead rapper nudging me on, all to say someone's brokenhearted. And this man with the gun in his mouth, this man who, like me, is really little more than a boy, may or may not have something to do with it, may or may not have said a thing or two, betrayed a secret, say, that walked my love away. And why not say it? She adored me, and I, her, more than anyone, anything in life up to then, and then still for 2 decades after, and therefore went for broke. Blacked out and woke, having gutted my piggy and pawned all my gold to buy what a homeboy said was a Beretta. Blacked out and woke, my hand on a gun, the gun in a mouth, a man who was really a boy on his knees. And because I loved the girl, I actually paused before I pulled the trigger. Once, twice, 3 times. Then panicked not just because the gun jammed, but because what if it hadn't? Because who did I almost become there that afternoon in a Section 8 apartment parking lot, pistol cocked with the sad flower staring? Because I knew the girl I loved, no matter how this all played out, would never have me back. Day of damaged ammo or grime that clogged the chamber. Day of faulty rods or springs come loose in my fist. Day nobody died. So why not hallelujah, say amen or thank you? My mother sang for years of God, babes, and fools. My father, lymph node masses fading from his x-rays, said surviving one thing means another comes and kills you. He's dead, and so I trust him. Dead, and so I'd wonder years about the work I left undone. Boy on his knees, a man now, risen, and likely plotting his long way back to me. Fuck it. I tucked my tool like the movie gangsters do and jumped back in my bucket. Cold enough day to make a young man weep. Afternoon when everything or nothing changed forever. The dead rapper grunted, the bass line faded, my spirits whispered something from the trees. I left, then lost the pistol in a storm drain, somewhere between that life and this. Left the pistol in a storm drain, but never got around to wiping away the prints. So I think I'm going to read a poem that I don't usually read. Um, and it's a poem dedicated to one of my teachers who has over the years become also a friend, and proud to call him a friend and proud to be a friend of his. Um, I started this project um, when I started writing poems that end up in this book, uh, where I wanted to give flowers to people while they were still here. Yeah. And the book, I should say, is dedicated in part to another of my teachers, the poet Philip Levine, um, who passed away a few years ago. When he passed, I started to think about the ways that we often wait until people are gone before we tell them what they mean to us. So I had this idea that I would start writing poems to people who have been instrumental in my work and in my life, and to gift these poems to those people while they were here. It just so happens that by the time the book went to press, that only one of the poems was ready for prime time. I have others that I'm still working on, but this is the only one that's actually done, and it's dedicated, well, you'll hear in the title. Dear Yusef, again, last night, I caught Medusa sitting in my living room. Not the devil, not the dog in the shadows, made of shadows, not the old translucent maroon sharpening his machete, but Medusa, lighting a spliff, spreading tarot cards across the floor. I didn't startle when a door slammed, but half expected a black cat to run over my shoes. She wore the same red lipstick as the night before, Yusef. Same black teddy with the skinny strap slipped from her shoulder. Singing to herself, her voice split in two, contralto, baritone, balladeer stroking the braids of a woman everyone knows he beats, the woman singing, yes, and it's all right. Sequined sleeves hiding every track, a disco ball scattering shards of light along some drab and peeling wall. Medusa cut the deck, relit the spliff, flipped one card, then another. Took a pull so long, I thought she'd catch fire. You've not always been a good man, she said, showing 7 cards, coughing hard. There was something she wasn't telling me. She liked that I didn't ask, liked how I watched her dusting ashes from her thigh. I see trouble finds you easy, hey boy. I pulled her onto my lap, or I slid myself somehow up under her. I can't remember which. She singing yes and it's all right. Then slipping the joint fireside first between her lips, she took my face in her hands and shotgunned a cloud into my open mouth. Some nights, Yusef, the serpents curse my name. Some nights, they tell me secrets. Yeah. It's one of those poems that I don't know. It resonates with me emotionally, I guess, but I don't know if someone were to ask me what the poem's about, I'd say, well, you know, there's Medusa and we're shotgunning and whatnot, but it has, I think, what Garcia Lorca calls a poetic logic. That, for some reason, I think Yusef would understand were he to read it. I don't know. All right. One more poem. Dolores, maybe. I've never spoken to anyone about this until now, until you. I slept once in a field beyond the riverbank, a flock of nightjars watching over me. That was the summer a farmer found his daughter hanging in the hayloft and wished for the first time he had not touched her so. I wish I could say we were close, the girl and I mean, but only knew her to wave hello and walked her once halfway up the road before turning finally into my grandmother's yard. This was Ontario, California, 1983, which is to say there was no river, and I wouldn't know a nightjar if it bit me. But the girl was real, and the day they found her, that was real. And the dress she wore, same as on our walk. Periwinkle, she called it. I called it blue. Blue with bright yellow flowers all over. The dress and the flowers, they too were real. And on our walk, I remember we cut through the rail yard and came upon a dead coyote lying near the tracks. A frail and dusty heap of regret, he was companion to no one. Stone still, staring, our shadows stretched long and covering the animal. She told me something I want to say about loneliness. Something I've since forgotten, the way I've forgotten, though I can see her face as if she were standing right here, her very name. Let's call her Dolores, from dolor, Spanish for anguish. And whatever the sky, however lovely that afternoon, I remember mostly the wind, how a breeze unraveled what was left of a braid, and when I tried to brush from Dolores's brow a few loose strands, how she flinched, how she ran the rest of the way home, how I never saw her after that, except when they carried her from the barn. Her periwinkle dress, her blue legs and arms, and the fields ablaze with daisies. I spent the rest of that summer in the rail yard with my dead coyote, watching trains loaded and leaving. All summer long, I'd pelt him with stones. All summer long, I'd use the stones to spell the girl's name. Dolores, maybe, in the dirt. All summer long, fire ants crawled over and between each letter, her name, now its own small town. A season of heat and heavy rains washed my coyote to nothing, only teeth and a few stubborn bones that refused finally to go down. Weeks into autumn, someone found the father hanged from the same groaning tie beams, the hayloft black with bottle flies. But that was 1983, Ontario, California, which is to say the bottle flies are dead, so too the ants, and neither field nor barn is where I left it. I've never spoken to anyone about this until now, until you. I gathered a handful of my coyote's bones, his teeth, and strung them all on fishing wire, a talisman to ward off anguish, a talisman I hold out to you now. Please, come closer, take this from my hand. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, John. What a special place we are in. And the gifts will continue to come into our basket. I am so happy in this moment to have an opportunity to welcome Rachel Hadass to this circle. A fantastic poet, co-inhabiting New York City and Vermont. She has published many books of poetry and prose and translation. She's very interested in translation. Her newest book of poetry that will come out in the fall, maybe a little later, is Love and Dread, which contains one of my favorite poems of hers, which we read to each other this week in our poetry council, and which she will read tonight. Since I've had a chance to take a peek, I know that her pieces are musical and they involve video. Her husband Shalom and she created images to go along with her poetry, which is a treat. She's an endowed professor of English at Rutgers. She is the recipient of a Guggenheim and the O.B. Harrison Poetry Prize. I love her book, Piece by Piece, and her newest book, Poems for Camilla. We also have connections. Her wonderful son is a friend of mine and lives in Silk Hope, where she owns a farm with him in Silk Hope. And I'm not even going to tell you the story about how a year after we met, her brother-in-law turns out to be the best friend of my wife's first husband. Welcome. A special treat, Rachel Hadass.
What you're about to see as my presentation for the West End Virtual Poetry Festival this year are 4 poetry videos, which I believe total about 15 minutes. All my husband's video work married to or coupled with my poetry, which is a wonderful new way of working, very exciting for me, and we've been collaborating with great pleasure and discovery since 2013, and that continues. So instead of seeing me, a talking head on screen, you'll be seeing 4 works of art with not necessarily only about the poetry, but clearly featuring the poetry. I hope you enjoy it. I'm delighted to be participating in this festival, and of course we're sorry we can't be there in person. Early light slants low across the lawn. Cup-like, this little valley brims with sun. Pages fill and empty. In the mist of a still morning, nothing's out of reach. Decades fade, the past glides into range, recoverable. A pristine cobweb caught motionless in one slat of morning light. You're on your daily walk uphill and back. Summer's end balances autumn's start. One apple falls without a breath of wind, but fruit past countings hidden in the tall wet grass. Like this valley now, my heart is full. I start to climb the hill toward you. My soul flies out to greet you, coming down. Doors, Gates, Alleys was written in Jerusalem. We were in Jerusalem in May and June of 2017 for a family wedding. I had never been to Jerusalem before, and I was so struck by the arcades and the tunnel-like quality of the old city. I don't think anything else needs to be said.
Bend down, open a low door, a little courtyard's hidden there. This secret monastery, these alleyways and contingencies. Dark blue sky, new moon, evening star. Where crossroads meet is where we are. So many alleys, how to choose from all the possibilities. Take any path and off you go. The consequences follow you only so far and then get lost in the last alleyway you crossed. The crescent moon high in the sky lights up the threads of destiny. How did we wander to this place? What power pulled us face to face? Sunset in Jerusalem, throngs of people scurrying down to the wall or else a door that opens to some secret stair. Almost trotting, they brush past. Even New Yorkers aren't this fast. Along the alley of design, where your lifeline knots with mine. Along the alley of desire, where mortal longings catch on fire. Along the tangled web of time, strands floating loose. Which way is home? There's never any turning back from each slippery downhill track. Cobblestones polished by countless feet. How did these people's parents meet? Each alley hides a secret door. If you find it, enter there. No time to waste, no time to wait. I stoop down to fit through the gate.
This poem in 4 parts was written in 2014 and 15 in the process of making the film Elegy for Stevenson Magloire, which my husband made. I did the poetry about a Haitian painter Stevenson Magloire, who was assassinated in 1994. We were down in Haiti talking to people, and I wrote some sort of chorus-like poems for this film. And at the end, without really consciously making that decision, I was speaking in the voice of Stevenson himself, talking about how art survives us.
Yesterday, in a dim, airless gallery, following your lead, I hunted down an iconography written in a grisly alphabet, yet full of life, the haunting gaze direct, transcending death. Death had, in winning, lost. Art trumped death, and life trumped art. Last night, I gave you space and found myself at the border of a far province in the king-sized bed, a dimly lit hinterland where paintings ruled of the same painter, mysteriously killed, stoned to death. Lapidated was one word. Assassinated. Why? A mystery to be solved by iconography? Death had won, but also death had lost. But the art holds itself in suspension. The codes, the contradiction, the scales, the word, the crosses. What rises from the tomb if not the tableau? If you never died, what resurrection? The ambiguity balanced on the scales, so there's no need to choose. Art trumped death, I see, and life trumped art. The battle's still in balance. You face me frontally. I look into those eyes. I have no more to say. You trace me back and back to further questions, but all the time I was behind you laughing. Parting the veils with both hands, parting the mists. The investigation comes upon a blank wall or a dark room empty of furniture and full of smoke. That painting there, does that hold the clue, or is it an illusion too? Our candid, soft-voiced informant, it turns out, has been lying. If we cannot believe everything he says, can we believe anything? Believing part, which part should we believe? The painting holds the clue, if anything does. A clue to what? Life or death, or only to itself? These scales, this key, this code all play their part. Do not lose anything. Everything is a key. I have no more to say. The mess of life for you cooked to a rich, dark compost, out of which astounding flowers grew, still grow, still face us, frontal, unabashed. This is not a lesson but a vision. Take it, it is yours now. Make of it what you will. This was my hand, my brush, my studio, my smoke and my loud music, my paint-stiff jeans. But now I belong to you. And looking back at me, you give me life. Our eyes meet in the frame.
Love and Dread was written early in 2017. A number of things happened. Our granddaughter was born. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with a serious illness. Our old cat died, and last but not least, Donald Trump was inaugurated, all early in 2017. It's a poem that weaves or braids together these strands of life and death and love and dread and hope and fear and tenderness and mortality and spring and winter. And it's the title poem of my forthcoming collection, Love and Dread, coming out later this fall.
A desiccated daffodil, a pigeon cooing on the sill. The old cat lives on love and water. Your mother's balanced by your daughter. One faces death, one will give birth. The fulcrum is our life on earth, beginning, ending in a bed. We have to marry love and dread. Dark clouds are roiling in the sky, the daily drumbeat of the lie, steady, no crescendoing. This premature deceptive spring, forsythia's in bloom already. The challenge, balance, keep it steady, now sniffing daffodil's aroma, now googling a rare sarcoma. The ghost cat's weightless on my lap. My mother's ghost floats through my nap as, dearest heart, we lie in bed. Oh, we must marry love and dread, must shield our senses from the glare and clamor of chaos everywhere. Life bestows gifts past expectation. It's time to plan a celebration, dance at the wedding, drink and sing, certain that summer follows spring, that new life blossoms from the past. The baby is the youngest guest. But just how long can we depend on a recurrence without end? Everything changes, even change. The tapestry of seasons strangely stirs in an uneasy wind that teases dreamlike through the mind. I reach for you across the bed. Oh, how to marry love and dread.
Oh my, Love and Dread.
Hello, Ms. Gideon Young. I'm a member of the Carrboro Poets Council, and I have the honor to introduce Destiny Hemphill. Destiny Hemphill is a poet, healer, and organizer. She is a Black daughter of the U.S. South, with homes in Texas, Tennessee, Arkansas, and the Carolinas. She has received fellowships from Tin House, Callaloo, and Naropa University. Destiny is the author of the chapbook Oracle, A Cosmology, published in 2018. Her work can also be found in Poetry, Carolina Quarterly, Echo Theo, The Wanderer, and elsewhere. She offers her poems as chants and rites to the sacred art of Black liberation. In this reading, Destiny will encourage you to find a space of peace. She exhorts us to amplify rituals of care. Her poems speak of bringing to the edge, edges, and hearing her voice, her poetry, I think of that edge not only as a precipice between ignorance and new understanding, but an edge between two paintings, one desiccated, one vibrant, between one world and another. This reading is full of peace, edge, other, another, vibrant connections, and worlds of wisdom. Destiny Hemphill.
Hey y'all, this is Destiny Hemp, and I'm going to read a few poems for you for the West End Poetry Festival. I hope that wherever you are able to access some ease and gentleness. And if it's challenging, because for so many of us, it is. I hope that there's some comfort in knowing that everything is temporary. The poems that I'm going to read are from my manuscript in progress, The Mother World Devotions. And that manuscript is written in immense grief and also immense belief that another world is possible. And it's thinking about the apocalypse as signaling, instead of the end of the world, the end of a world, and acknowledging that the world that we inhabit right now is only one of many worlds that have existed on this planet. And it's a world that's been constituted by anti-Blackness, colonial brutality, and capitalism. And once that world sheds, it's possible, holds the possibility that we can usher in ritual and structures of care that sustains all life, particularly Black life, and that some of those rituals and structures of care are already available to us in the present. It's a matter of proliferating them as practice, and amplifying them. So before I read, though, I invite you to just take a breath with me. And I'll often take breaths between poems, and I invite you to continue breathing with me intentionally. I'm going to be reading in this direction, so my head will be doing this movement just to prepare. And the first poem is The Portal Appears. Before proceeding, an invocation to be read aloud. Scarlet sky, fissured earth, cotton-mouthed, your hands clasped across your splitting belly. In your craw is the historical entanglement, the half-millennium long planetary ecocide genocide not known as since 1492. You were born into it and it into you, churning, burning, bulging within you. Your ears ring, soften your craggy breath. Now a hum, soften your craggy breath. Now a song, yes, a cicada song, burrowing into your skull. Go to the edge, not the bleached pit of the center, but the edge. The song says, go to the edge. No, not the hemorrhaged modeling borders of empire, but beyond, elsewhere. Go to the edge. Look down, slivers of moon rind so thin they look like they could slice the soles of your feet. Illumine your path, you follow them. Sometimes you walk, slither, hop along the slivers of moon rind to the edge. Sometimes the knot makes it that you are writhing, convulsing, revolting to the edge nonetheless. The edge be a liminal space, and you know liminal doesn't equal marginal. If you don't know, now you know, but rather liminal be a ritual space, and a ritual space be for summoning and transformation. When you arrive, the fragrance of mulberry trees washes over you. It is dusk. You are not alone here. Others surround you with red threads hanging from their mouths. You feel the knot entangled within you unravel. You all kneel, sink into the edge, pull the threads from each of your own mouths, not always gently, not always gingerly. As you pull, unravel, disentangle, you swoon and sway in somnolence. A summoning hum, then howl, comes from your throats. And as you summon other worlds, may other worlds summon you. And as you summon another world, may another world summon you. As you summon mother world, may mother world summon, summon, summon. This is dispatches from the now here. 1. In the now times, this is what we know. To build a mother world is never easy, not when a silence stews, sulfur stench of hunger brews on our breath. And yes, we can remember what the prophet mother saying in the oracles of Mamanim. Y'all be sweet now to each other, you hear? And yes, we are striving to be sweet, but what a striving sweetness is when we are surviving off the bile and salt and sweat from our flesh. And it's never an easy thing. No, never easy. When our calves are tired, so tired, and our feet weeping blistered and tender. Not when we have to hide in the same trees that we know fugitives before us had to hide in. not when we are hiding in the same trees that others were hanged from. 2. This is what we know, that when it is not easy, this makes it even more necessary to be sweet with each other, even more necessary to dream with each other. So we find a patch of earth that still has soil, lie down, fingers interlaced like mycelium. And it's never an easy thing when we feel pebbles under our elbows and at the surfaces of our spines, dust in our nostrils and in our dry throats. And it's never easy when we are hungry, not metaphorically hungry, but hungry, and thirsty, not poetically thirsty, but thirsty. And it's never easy once we fall and dream with each other and get to a crossroads, and there's always a crossroads. Tonight, some of us want to go away where some get honey, but not all of us. And what determines what gets us fed is arbitrary, like our hair, or our age, or our tongues, or our gender, or how we love or express our rage, or our hue, or what we can or cannot do with our bodies. And some of us cry in this dream, but something is better than nothing. And some of us cry in this dream, but we said we weren't going to settle no more. We said we came to unsettle. And some of us scream because it's the only way to get some of us to know we care about this. And some of us scream because it is the only way we know to prove to our own selves that we care. And some of us furl our fists because we are so used to fighting this way, have had to fight kindred before, and will fight them again if it means we can survive. And some of us furl into ourselves because we have fought enough, lost enough, are still fighting in so many little ways, and just want to, if only for a little bit, rest. 3. This is what we know. We practice dreaming together, not because we know the place of our dreams will come true, but because we know that what we dream is possible by virtue of our dreaming it. 4. This is what we know, the place we are seeking, the place that we call a good place. It's a place that others have believed to be nowhere, have designed other worlds like our receding one in such a way so that this place that sustains life like ours, sustains Black life, is nowhere. And we are bold enough to believe that we can create it to be now here. This is what we know. We did not come this far to recover who we once were, but to recover the desire to be who we need to become. This is Blood Memory, a riddle, and it's from my friend Rose. And the names mentioned belong to some of my maternal ancestors. Here, let us consider for a moment that reality is a secret and that the body is a crypt. Let us consider for a moment the specter that since the body is a crypt with secrets that Mabel, Nellie, and Lucinda hide in yours. The specters that you sense, like the spirits Lucinda feigned not to see or hear. Again, what secrets did Mabel, Nellie, and Lucinda bury in you when they conspired to connect their lineages? Yes, the spirits Lucinda feigned not to see or hear. The baby that Mabel had to give away, the baby that Nellie tried to keep alive. When they conspired to connect their lineages, they conjured you. The baby that Mabel gave away, the baby that Nellie tried to keep alive. When you try to speak grief, your tongue swells with the heavy endowment that they conjured you. Now you know your mother's blessed your sacred mouth and all that it holds therein. When you try to speak grief, your tongue swells with the heavy endowment that even in your dreams, your voice abandons you. But don't you know your mother's blessed your scared mouth and all that it holds therein? The shells and the poison, the atmosphere and the moth wings, the skin. Still, even in your dreams, your voice abandons you in search of a planet untethered to the shells, the poison, the atmosphere, the cicada wings, the skin, in search of rest in the blue spaces between language, in search of a body, cosmic or not, untethered to reality as a secret, in search for rest in the blue spaces between language, here. So these last two poems. This one is called We Ask Mama Nim, Where is the Mother World? And it's an acrostic after a Ruthie Wilson Gilmore quote. And so the spine reads, listen, it's building the future from the present in all of the ways we can. Listen, it's in, not at, and the whistle and hiss, the steam of your breath as you chant, we ready, we coming atop of a jail building in ruins. Yes, it's in your breath, and in the never dwindling kindle of your fingertips as you reach out and touch the hands of your kindred, the living and your dead who keep you here, right here where we offer ourselves as the remains of the remaining future. Keep breathing, don't stop now. Yes, in your breath and in your hands that fend off, defend us from the state that craves our death, seeks to snuff our breath, lick the bones, chew the sinew, and in the same hands tending the fire, tending to the tendons pulled in flight, the bedraggled roots of raised hawthorn trees, to the composting of our present, tending to the dream that what we need and what others have believed to be found nowhere can be found in the now here, like in those moments you said rent shouldn't exist, so here's a little money for it, or don't got money for rent, but take all the food you want, or don't got food, but wrap yourself up in this, or don't have anything to wear, but here's a card, been thinking of you, and a song written for you, and a milkweed found by chance, and the paper you've been wanting so you can write your mama a letter to say you're okay, or here's a map of the hidden ways to get back safe. Listen, we've already been molding and shaping, spinning and folding, birthing and sharing. Can you feel it? In our breath and in our hands. Between us, we've got the mother world, the whole mother world, in our breath and in our hands. So the final poem is How We Got Our Blues Tongue, and it's after Toni Cade Bambara. There's a line here from her, the Commodores, and Tremaine Hawkins. And I encourage you to get Salt Eaters after this, to listen to Zoom by the Commodores, and listen to Going Up Yonder, which is by Walter Hawkins choir, but Tremaine Hawkins is the lead. And so her voice is in the backdrop of this poem. And also it's an obsidarian, so each line starts with the letter of the alphabet sequentially. How we got our blues tongue. And the augurs among us direct our gaze to the sky, all alluvial, breaking through, breaking blue, and we open our mouths to catch the cerulean, catch the rugged blues again on our tongue, blurred and bruised. Decadent deluge of dirge, drenching skin, dandelions and dirt. Diviners say we dancing dizzy to the ends of the world, dancing at the end of the world to elsewhere, edging to flight. Let there be flight and their flight be. We be a many forked tongue folk. Glossolalia gurgling, crossing and translating other realms folk. Apocalyptic glitch, we put our hands on our hips and put our hands in the air, hold our hands to the haints and catch their iridescent feathers. Oh, haints, come true to us, come blue to us, come through to this juke point we call Earth. This jagged jollification, we won't jilt you, no. We keep our dead kin with us as the dead kin have kept us the living. Listen, empire can't catch us, but it can catch these hands of redistribution, these moonfire spells to undo and redo, these fractal winged myths exploding the means, this newness, this emergence that isn't actually that new at all. If we're telling the truth about our origins, this is quite old. Yes, blues old, which is bones old, which is dirt old. Oh yes, we've got our poems, parables, psalms in our own palms as record that we've refashioned ourselves before. We've questioned ourselves before, quivered with loss before, made portal of crisis and quantum leap rebirthed, bled and tended flesh wounds with rest and sinking medicine before, because the material without the spiritual and psychic does not a dialectic make. Let's get the rhythm of our feet. Let's get the rhythm of our throats, holding a cosmic alchemy of tragedy and celebration that can turn this thing upside down so that the sky becomes soil and soil becomes sky and dirt is what we seek for salvation. Verily, verily, when you get this rhythm, meet us at the crossroads. You'll know because you'll hear whistling from the mulberry trees. You'll smell them too, and we'll be there perched, looking real zenial and otherworldly. We'll be humming with the haints, inspiring about going up yonder to be with our mother world. Zoom, zoom, we'd like to fly away to right here. Thank you all so much.
Oh, whoa. What a reading. What an incredible reading. And we still have two rich, amazing, extraordinary readers before us. Michael Glaser became famous as the poet laureate of the great state of Maryland. But he has connections to North Carolina too. And a lot of his family is in our group today, sitting around our campfire. And Simon and Amira and Eva and Kathleen are all with us. So we are so glad you are here. What a treat. What a treat for you to be able to listen to this. What can we say about Michael Glaser? God, he's a poet of great generosity. He's a professor emeritus at St. Mary's College. As he writes, wanting more than hope, he chose poetry. He has written many books, including A Lover's Eye, Being a Father, and Disrupting Consensus. In this piece you are about to hear, he has an extraordinary poem about our pandemic, about the coronavirus. And he posits, what if we could look at this as being a womb instead of a tomb? And I love that image of our becoming through this. Extraordinary, more connected, not less. More purposeful, not less. His newest book is Threshold of Light, and it received the Bright Hill Chapbook Award. But one of the things that I love most about his work is his engagement with the great and extraordinary African-American poet, Lucille Clifton. He co-edited the complete poems of Lucille Clifton and edited Conversations with Lucille. And both of those are extraordinary, as she was extraordinary. In his statement on his website, he quotes Lucille, who says that poetry gives us windows to broaden our perspective and gives us mirrors to reflect our own experience. I think that Michael Glaser does both. And I think you're in for a real treat in this beautiful reading that's about to happen. Hello, Michael. Good to have you come and present to us. Take care.
I'm Michael Glaser, and I'm very delighted to be part of this Carrboro Festival. Poetry serves me, as I know it serves many people, as a meaningful way of examining my life, the world around me, and exploring the questions that help me make sense of how I can best stand up to be part of this world I live in. I'd like to begin my reading by sharing a poem of William Stafford's that I think speaks very importantly to part of the world that we live in today and the tensions that we feel between people. It's called A Ritual to Read to Each Other by William Stafford. If you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others made may prevail in the world, and following the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood storming out to play through the broken dike. And as elephants parade, holding each elephant's tail, but if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel, and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs, but not recognize the fact. I call it cruel, and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs, but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote, important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider, lest the parade of our mutual life gets lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no, or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep. William Stafford. Poem about COVID-19, beginning with the epigraph, a quotation, an important quotation that you may have heard from Valerie Kaur. What if this is not the darkness of the tomb, but rather the darkness of the womb? COVID-19. Perhaps we are being called to step up, find our voices and the capacity to hold complexities as a singular question that might lead us into the world of our better angels, our better selves, anxious to break free of the fears that tear us apart, and then embrace one another like a rainbow, like a promise made long ago. When I was in elementary school, all my life actually, I've been a terrible speller. My wife, who's an educator, identified for me when I was 30 that I have minor dyslexia, which may explain it, but I sure did not know that when I was. To my 5th grade teacher. Dear Miss Lorenz, I'm writing because I was remembering you today. Soft and kind your voice was, and how your eyes sparkled with laughter and light, which is why I wanted to impress you, and why I was so afraid of spelling, where I knew you would discover that I was just another stupid kid. And so on the day of the big spelling test, I made that tiny piece of paper. And when we put our books away, I cupped it in my hand for use only when absolutely necessary. And you moved up and down the rows of our desks, pronouncing words until you stopped next to me, called out a word, and then, when everyone was writing, reached into my clenched fist, took the paper, and then walked on. You never made an example of me, never spoke to my parents about it, or even mentioned it to me. And you never treated me differently either, just went on as though nothing had happened. But of course, something had. I never cheated again, Miss Lorenz. I never stole another candy bar or money from my mother's purse or the top of my father's dresser. And I am writing to thank you for treating me with dignity, even as you caught me red-handed in sin. It was as close to grace as I have ever been. Perhaps one day I'll know it once again. Spent a lot of time thinking about how it was that I was raised to believe that being a man is what I was raised to believe being a man was, how my culture and society taught me lessons about that. And I've developed this theory that when I was young, I had a twin. I called my twin Mikey. He was a sweet, sweet boy. But when I started trying to become like I thought the world wanted me to be, Mikey left me. And this is a poem about that. My twin. My twin left me when my teacher called my mother to tell her if I couldn't follow rules, something would have to be done. Father made a face that told me I'd better not disappoint him again. I put on a mask, and thus the exit of my twin. It has taken most of my life to reclaim the liminal ledge of danger I walked on then. The excitement, not so much of being disobedient as of not being contained, here on the edge of selfhood, where these memories have returned and where my twin has reappeared to remind me that it is never too late to embrace the music that is still trying to spell out the syllables of my name. Part of exploring what it is to be a man in our culture has led me to, as it's led many, but to puzzle over the horrifying reality that it's always young men who are doing these mass murderers, particularly in schools, and trying to puzzle out what on earth could be causing such violent and destructive behavior, such anger. This is called a sideward glance after another school shooting. But what, I wondered, what if I preferred to play chess or write poetry? What if I sensed that somewhere buried within was a sweetness I had vaguely felt, but fearfully understood might name me some unspeakable other? What if my most intense memories from childhood are of wrestling with my best friend until exhausted we lay side by side, skin touching skin? What if he turned to me or I to him? What then? And who could I talk to? Surely not my father, nor the friends I'd never tell about thoughts like these that get buried and fester like a wound waiting to be opened by a smirk, a whisper, a sideward glance. The environmental crisis, another part of our world today, and a fearful part, because It's so easy to look at the beauty of nature and to be nurtured by the beauty of nature and the oceans and the mountains and not see the devastation that is going on at a frightening pace. This is a poem called Listening to the News. Listening to the news, I despair for our blue marbles spin. And though I fear we are tumbling toward a fool's death, my heart aches to linger through another cycle of spring. The sweet shining of my children's lives, the trust that rises in my grandchildren's eyes. In the dark, I tuck pillows of anguish under my head and pray to gods I'm not even sure of for some frail hope to carry through the night, asking as I do that something somehow will make this right. A love poem for my wife, Kathleen. This begins with another epigraph from Joy Michelson, who wrote, God is a name that love gives to being. God is a name that love gives to being. All this time for Kathleen. All this time, looking into your eyes, knowing the touch of your skin, the sound of your laughter, the gateway of your arms rainbowed around my head. All this time, blessed by the sanctuary of your kindness, the nurture of your heart, your devotion to our children, the lights of Shabbat. All this time, I have been living in the presence of the name that love gives to being, and I have failed to name it, praise it, and say Amen. And I'd like to end with a poem by one of my favorite poets, a woman who I was blessed to be a colleague with for many years at St. Mary's College of Maryland, Lucille Clifton. Lucille is a wonderful and very wise woman. This poem, Blessing the Boats, is written to you. May you. Coming from the wisdom of Lucille, that always felt right. But when I read it out loud and I say you instead of we, it doesn't feel right to me. So I hope that she'll forgive me, but I've changed the you to we. I hope you'll forgive me and enjoy this final poem. Blessing the Boats. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry us out beyond the face of fear. May we kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love our backs. May we open our eyes to water, water waving forever. And may we, in our innocence, sail through this to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. This is Jay Bryan, a member of the Poets Council. It's fitting that we end this wonderful group of readings with Carborough's own poet, laureate Fred Joyner. Enclosed in Fred's kind and humble spirit lies a real community treasure for us. He's Carborough's poet laureate. He reads at town council meetings, organizes poetry readings at coffee shops, curator of storytelling and creative writing for people experiencing homelessness. He's chairperson of the Orange County Arts Commission and working on creating an art space in the Eno River Mill in Hillsborough. and collaborating with others in our community. It's just a terrific organizer and generous spirit for artists, particularly poets. He's, as he puts it, to build the art structure in the county and to support artists and creative people to stay here. Fred is a poet's poet. I'm not sure what I mean by that, but it just feels good. A passionate student of history, whether it's from visiting with his church, the National Museum for Peace and Justice, or reading books such as My Grandmother's Hands, Radicalized Trauma, and The Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. He is as well as a dedicated student of the writing of prose and of poetry, his and others, and their thinking as mirrors to things that were, things that are, and things that have yet to come. His own poetry is dotted with references and themes regarding the Black experience in our nation, history, hope, and tragedy. I think they're echoed in these words from his poem, 7 Ways of Looking at Black Flowers. This is an excerpt from it. Against a sky white, like fists full of sea, island cotton, the sky raining, blood on black flowers. In our world, the tongue speaks only a binary song, always a black flowering problem against a white canvas, blood in between. Yes, Fred has been at the peak of the artistic world of Washington, D.C. and Maryland, a fellow of the Academy of Poet Laureates, serves on nonprofit boards like the American Poetry Museum. He started the Washington, D.C. Center for Poetic Thought. He's published in numerous publications, and he won the Divine Comedy Poetry Contest sponsored by the National Museum of African American Art, Smithsonian Museum. But as I see it, the true place of his heart is not in these boards and accolades. It's in his faith and in the African American experience. Like the street preacher in his poem, Sermon on the 94th. Hold on, he speaks. He stood there as if waiting for his word to take root, waiting for flames to reveal themselves, refusing to be shut up in marrow. He was speaking to me. His message did what all good sermons do. Meet me on the cross roads, move me beyond doubt. Please welcome Fred Joyner, both worshiper and preacher on the 94th and poet.
Hello, everybody. I'm Fred Joyner. I am the Poet Laureate of Carrboro. I have the honor of being the Poet Laureate of Carrboro. And just so glad that we could be together and still experience poetry even during this pandemic. And I think especially during this pandemic, poetry is providing for us a balm and some solace for the times that we're in. I'm going to share a few poems with you. Some will be mine, and 1 or 2 will probably be by someone else. To be honest, I haven't been writing much lately because life has been really been challenging, and so I've been leaning on the words of so many of my poet friends, and or if people or poets that I at least imagine are my poet friends, even if I've never met them. And so I'm going to open with a poem by Lucille Clifton. She's written this is a book of poems that just came out that was put together by another amazing poem, Aracelis Girmay. It's called How to Carry Water. It's a selected poems, and it's got poems in it that have been unpublished and that you can't find anywhere else. And so I'm going to open with this poem that I was just flipping through, and it just struck me because it so typifies and the kind of work that that Miss Lucille gave us, the gift that she gave us. It's called Study the Masters. Study the Masters. Like my Aunt Timmy, it was her iron, or one like hers, that smoothed the sheets the master poet slept on. Home or hotel, what matters is he lay himself down on her handiwork and dreamed. She dreamed too. Words, some Cherokee, some Maasai, some huge and particular as hope. If you had heard her chanting as she ironed, you would understand form and line and discipline and order and America. I mean, I can't say enough about Mama Lucille, Miss Lucille. She's an ancestor now, and her work has been kind of a guidepost for me in a lot of ways as I've moved through my experience of trying to grapple with poems. Mama Lucille, Miss Lucille is a builder. You know, she was a builder of worlds. I mean, some people don't know she was just as an accomplished children's writer as she was a poet, and so she affected so many lives and so many poets. So many of us are still kind of just moving, and her work is generating more work in us. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote some time ago. It's called The Builders, and there's a lot that went in. There's a lot of different things that went into this poem, but the primary drivers were Jacob Lawrence, the artist Jacob Lawrence, and he had this series of paintings that he did on builders, on workers. And one of the set of workers he did were builders, people who built buildings, and then also Diego Rivera. You know, I've seen images of his work, the murals and stuff like that, but I've never seen it in person. And so I was just, and then it's also inspired by driving through DC. If anybody's been to DC, there's just been rapid kind of like building and gentrification that went along with the building. And so I often thought about the people that were building these buildings and renovating all these super expensive homes. And this poem came to the builders. Our hands speak the language of artifacts. Under a Saturday sun, we obey the call of our hands. The burn of builders aching in your palms, the breath of story, tellers stirring in mine. We build to leave the world different than how we enter. Leave evidence. A syllable is a brick. A single word is on a page. Oh, I'm sorry. A syllable is a brick. A single word on a page is a monument in the face of a white horizon meant to erase us. So speaking of erasing, today we're filming this on what would be Columbus Day. I choose to honor the indigenous. So this is Indigenous Peoples Day. I choose to acknowledge that and observe that in honor of the people who lived on this land, all over this land before many of us either got here or were brought here, stolen here. And so this is a little kind of experimental thing that I've been playing around with. I decided to take some risks and read some work that I'm challenging myself to during this pandemic to do that. So this is a poem, and it's entitled Land, and it looks like this. It looks like that. It's hard to see. If you want to see it, I'll give you my email address, and I'll send it to you. And it's a meditation on land, in particular the United States and any stolen, occupied piece of land. Land. First, plan, learn, plant, food, supplant, a people, a nation, plan, another nation, a notion, plant, fear, plant or spill blood, plan, labor, harvest, steal, import, labor, plan, plant, plant, build, birth of a nation, plantation. So this little group of poems that I'm reading here are kind of related in a way. I think there's a thread here. I invite you to send me an email. Let's talk about it after you've heard the poems. Let me know what you think. This poem comes as I was driving through Washington, D.C. and thinking about so many of the people, native Washingtonians who have been moved out of the city. And honestly, as I moved through different cities all over the country, you see people who were born and raised in a place and gave our cities their character, are now being displaced by market forces, right? And so this was a meditation around that, a thought around that, and the thought about where people go when they can't return to their homes, to the places that they built in the city. Extremities. This city used to mean us, signify a skin. Streets filled with blood and bloods meant us. We used to think of our city as a heart, the center of things. The point was to go and to come. We still like to think of it as a heart, not a foot or a fist formed against us, not a metaphor, not arteries and veins, but avenues, not capillaries, but highways that lead us to townships of blood. Extremities. We be honest hands and feet, digits doing the hard and dirty work of the unthanked. We carry a message in our bodies. I am still here. The tingle down the arm means the city's body is speaking. What happens when blood cannot return home? What of the pound of flesh that pumps ignorant to its members, knowing nothing of commerce, of gentrifying blocks, of the body's displacement, or the silencing of loud memories? Our bodies say, we loud as we want to be in our house. Our handshakes are explosions, celebration, perhaps thanks for surviving the bullet and the bulldozer. A city shedding its skin. Our noise says, we still here, or we ain't going nowhere. Our colors are an imprint in our absence. We afterglow. The unexplained numb and smolder at the fingertips says, our blood, our sound is still needed here. So we talked about, you know, like kind of this physical displacement that happens with in our physical world, you know, in the built in world, in the built environment, and the places that we live. This kind of like displacement that happens. This next poem I'm going to read is kind of about what happens in the digital world. How are people erased or challenged or displaced in the digital world? So I'm going to read a quick poem here. It's called Born Digital. Born Digital is a term for things that are created and originate in the digital world. You know, like this, like this experience now, this virtual experience of this festival. It's born digital. It's going to be in the digital world, and who knows what's going to happen to it when we're long gone from here. The way that everything gets archived and copied and duplicated. Born Digital. That's the name of this poem. If they could not disappear you, they, and by they, I mean we, will erase, raise you. Unwrite your name from our news cycle memories. Tomorrow there will be someone else to forget, to pretend never existed, or worse, that you deserve to be disappeared, or whatever thorn of calamities cleaves to your flesh. We will make it biblical because it makes the lie last longer. We will make it be digital because we think hashtags are forever. Or perhaps we believe that a keystroke is a kind of mourning and that hard drives hold everything worth keeping. So this is a poem. This is kind of like, you know, I'm a child of a musician. My father is a musician, and he played all kinds of music. He played, he played classical music, played jazz, soul, and so music factors heavy in my life. And I didn't really, you come into certain knowledge of yourself as you get a little bit older, and I didn't realize how important music was to me until, I was probably, I don't know, in my 20s in college, because I would put on music and it would calm me and bring me, this kind of solace. And so given that I'm a child of hip hop in a way, and so in hip hop is so many things. One of the things that it does do very well is there's a kind of collage aesthetic that comes with hip hop, because it's bringing together so many different musical sources and cultural sources to make an artful musical expression. And so this poem is kind of like typifies that kind of mashup collage aesthetic. It's also inspired by a poet named Jacqueline Jones Lamont, who has this she called it her 3-strand twist, this kind of braiding technique where you take 3 different things and you kind of try to make a poem out of it, a cohesive thing. And so the 3 things that kind of came to me are, there's a painting by a Washington Color School painter named Gene Davis. The painting is called Black Flowers. And it's a really amazing painting. If I was thinking, I would have had it on my computer so I could share my screen with you. But you'll look it up and you'll check it out. And then the second element is 26 Ways of Looking at a Black Man by a poet named Raymond Patterson. Very important poet. The book the title of that poem is a book in which he writes about some of the riots that were going on in the 60s during the civil rights movement, when people were turning water hoses on African Americans just trying to march peacefully for their rights, right? And then the last, obviously, is 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird by Wallace Stevens. And so I'm going to open, my poem is called 7 Ways of Looking at Black Flowers. And it opens with an epigraph, and it's part number 13 from Raymond Patterson's poem. What is more beautiful than black flowers, or the black men in fields gathering them? 1. In what mellow tone do black flowers sing their blues? Black flowers like black hands colored, reaching toward a mystery up south. Black flowers, the gift of open palms, facing north, but rooted south. A man and a woman are one. A man and a woman and black flowers are dust. Against a sky white like fists full of Sea Island cotton, the sky raining blood on black flowers. In our world, the tongue speaks only a binary song, always a black flowering problem against a white canvas, blood in between. The sound possibilities of black flowers were choices made by the hands and breath and brass of a gifted man, looking inward, blood on his lips. So this is a poem, and this is going to be my second to last poem. I think I'm going to read one more poem by Lucille Clifton to kind of like bookend my reading and hopefully just wrap it in this beautiful cocoon of Lucille Clifton's words. This is a poem that I was trying to be humorous by the title, and then I kind of went somewhere else with it. But there's a reference in here. You all are intelligent people. I'm not going to insult your intelligence, but I do make some mentions of things that are DC related. And one of the references I make is to Paul Laurence Dunbar, who lived in Washington, DC for quite some time. And so I'm going to read on why I don't celebrate Halloween. And this is not true. I have children, so I do celebrate Halloween. It's just, for the artifice of the poem, I was on why I don't celebrate Halloween. Because I don't need another mask. Every time I pass 4th Street, I think of Dunbar, grins and lies. Walking past the abandoned Fraser's Funeral Home on the corner, holding years of tears and sighs, takes me to my grandmother's home, Savannah, the second most haunted city in America, a city I have only seen once. In DC, there are ghosts. There are enough ghosts to deal with in daylight. Sometimes I am one of them, invisible and feared at the same time. Here, I am like Ellison's protagonist, hiding in the belly of another fading chocolate city, Harlem. And in me in my studio by the wharf, where the smell of delicious death is heavy on the skin and the tongue, and my bright yellow walls are just like the luster of his 1369 lights. Overlooking the Anacostia sits Cedar Hill, where I imagine the ghost of Frederick Douglass walking Martin Luther King Avenue. Only DC natives can see him, no matter how loudly he speaks of freedom or birthrights. Because fake blood over time erases the hurt of real blood. And because the surprise of blood not mine stirs something under my skin, a spectacle above even the revelry of guising. So yeah, I'm gonna close with a poem from the, like I said, from this collection, Lucille Clifton, How to Carry Water. It's a beautiful book. And this poem is located in North Carolina in 1999. It's called Libation. Libation, North Carolina, 1999. I offer to this ground this gin. I imagine an old man crying here, out of the overseer's sight, pushing his tongue through where a tooth would be if he were whole. The space aches where his tooth would be, where his land would be, his house, his wife, his son, his beautiful daughter. He wipes his sorrow from his cheek, then puts his thirsty finger to his thirsty tongue and licks the salt. I call a name that could be his. This offering is for you, old man. This salty ground. This gin. So that's Lucille Clifton. I'm Fred Joyner. Thank you so much for being a part of this festival. Share these links, share these poems, find these collections of all the poems, all the poets and poems that are reading in this festival. Find them. I guarantee you will be blessed. I want to send a big shout out to the Poets Council, to our elected officials at Town Council at here in Carrboro, North Carolina, who fund this festival, who actually invest in this festival. That's no small thing that a municipality will invest in poetry, invest in art in this way. And so I'm really thankful for that. I'm thankful to the poetry community here in Carrboro that has embraced me, even though I'm a newcomer. I hope to continue to make you all proud as your poet laureate, and continue to do this work to bring poetry to Carrboro and infuse it into our lives. Thank you very much. Be blessed.
Well, hello everyone. I feel like how did the time pass so quickly? And how intimate can it be to be able to sit here with poetry and folks, even though we're not together? Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. It's just been such a pleasure to be able to have the West End Poetry Festival, even though we're virtual. And amen to all of our poets, and then all of our introducers. You've all done a fantastic job. And of course to the town of Carrboro and the Parks and Recreation and Charles Harrington and the so many people who make this possible. So normally you would be able to buy books and get them signed and enjoy that. And we highly encourage you to go to the bookstores as Fred suggested and go ahead and buy those books and support your artists in the area. And lastly,
bookstores. Support the local bookstore. Flyleaf has been a very good supporter of ours as well. And thank you, Abigail and Ralph, for untangling our technology so we can function.
So we hope to have more for you. Again, this year we had a virtual open mic, which you can still watch on YouTube with about 20 plus poets participating. We have a community written poem, which some of the folks here have lines in. And we had the wonderful workshop with CJ Suit on how to perform a poem, which is now on YouTube as well, if you want to do that asynchronously. So again, from the bottom of our hearts, we are appreciative of you coming. We love you. We love that you love poetry and love Cartbro, and we wish you well and hope to see you again next year. Keep writing. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I think it's just us. You're muted, but
And now I'm unmuted. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Our fellow poets have fled. Yes.
oh, I'm sorry. You might have to. I guess we're still live on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, let's stop that. Thank you. Oh boy, I'm full screen and been having some trouble with my monitor here.